Good morning, everybody. I hope you all are having an absolutely wonderful day so far. I want to welcome you here to my channel. My name is James Goss, and this is Escaping the Neon, where basically I'm trying to provide a little bit of motivation, a little bit of confidence, and a little bit of mindset shifting to entrepreneurs, aspiring entrepreneurs, people who want to be business owners, and people who just want to find the best versions of themselves that they can possibly find. So again, thank you so much for your time and welcome. So today what we're going to be talking about is something that obviously most of us are fairly familiar with, and that is failure. So by the end of this, I'm going to ask you to change your mindset about failure and how you approach failure, and start looking at failures as a positive thing in a much better light. Know that failure is the only real way to find lasting success, and start embracing your failures instead of critiquing yourself and criticizing yourself all the time for any number of different types of failures. Realize that failures are really just lessons that you get throughout your life on what not to do or how not to do something. And unless you're beneath the ground, you have every opportunity to learn from that failure, come back and try again. Now again, this boils down to a self-confidence factor. This boils down to a, do you have the grit and determination, and again, self-confidence to move forward and not allow a failure to slow you down. So let's start this off with one of my favorite quotes from one of my absolute favorite authors, probably the king of self-help motivation, Napoleon Hill. And he says that every adversity, every failure, every heartbreak carries with it the seed of an equal or greater benefit. Now, I love that quote so much because number one, it's extremely true, and number two, it really encourages you to seek out kind of the lighter side of things, or the other side of when you come across an adversity or when you have a failure. It gives you that courage and the knowledge that on the other side of that, there is that equivalent benefit. So it actually asks you to find what that equivalent benefit is. So I want you to actually do this. I want you to think, what was a recent adversity, or what was a recent failure, or something that didn't go as you had hoped, and what can you gain out of that experience, instead of putting it all in an extremely negative light. Now, if we're saying every single thing has the seed of an equivalent benefit, meaning, first of all, what is the seed of an equivalent benefit? A seed, of course, is something that has to be nourished. There has to be certain things to happen for it to be a seed. So when he says there's the seed of an equivalent benefit, it's important to realize that with every failure or every adversity, there isn't just inherently an equivalent benefit. You don't just like, okay, well, I went through that negative time, so now I'm automatically going to get a positive time. No, the word specifically is the seed of an equivalent benefit, which means you have to cultivate that seed, you have to give that seed nourishment, and then that equivalent benefit, or your plant, or whatever you want to think of it as, is going to emerge. So I think that's a really important nuance within the quote that is definitely important to recognize. But I want to talk about too, what is really a failure in your eyes? How do you see failure? Do you see failure as a mistake, or are you going to allow yourself to switch that mindset to, my failures are a learning experience? I know for me personally, I had the choice of potentially taking out a huge amount of debt, going to business school. I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur at some point. Some part of my brain knew that I wanted to be an entrepreneur, wanted to be a business owner. And essentially, I wanted to finance my education by making mistakes and allowing myself to fail, because I figured I could fail for 4 years straight, spending a similar amount of money as to what I would spend in a business school, and I would learn probably much, much more because I'm getting a hands-on experience. Now, I'm not necessarily advocating that. I'm just saying, for me personally, that was a good mindset to have moving forward, and allowing myself allowing my inner spirit, that giving it the go-ahead that it is okay to fail. Failure, of course, is not the goal. It's nobody's goal. But you have to be able to forgive yourself and allow yourself to fail. Because if you're expecting perfection, no matter who you are, no matter how long you've been doing something, or no matter how well you know your field or your craft, you're going to fail or mess up at something. There will be some adversity that you have to overcome. So this really plays into how you hold yourself up in your own mind. Again, another confidence factor. Do you have that confidence in yourself that you will be able to overcome that failure or that adversity? So I'd like to bring up another quote here, which is by W. Clement Stone, where he says, "Every disadvantage, there is a corresponding advantage." So for every disadvantage, there is a corresponding advantage. Okay, so we're talking extremely broadly here. We're talking for every disadvantage. There is many people with physical and mental disabilities who have turned those disabilities into an advantage. And you can do the same thing with any type of disadvantage that you have been served. So I want you to think about, what is a disadvantage that you have currently been counting as, this is something that's holding me back? How can you shift your mindset and think of this as, this is something that can empower me? This is what makes me unique, not what makes me worse off than everyone else. This is what makes me different, and I'm going to use this unique strength. And really, the most important thing when you're thinking of a failure is to just remember that it's okay. I'm going to offer the suggestion here that you have permission to fail, and I hope internally you'll be willing to agree with me that you have permission to fail. Go ahead, think about it, internalize that, give yourself the permission that you need, give yourself the confidence that it's okay to fail, give yourself that knowledge, cut yourself a break. Do that internally. Now, do I recommend setting a goal to fail? No, I recommend setting goals that you plan on succeeding wholeheartedly, but just recognize, if failure does come, recognize the fact that that failure is simply a stepping stone to your eventual success. Give yourself a pat on the back for, hey, you went out there, you tried, you gave it your best. Or maybe you didn't give it your best, and that's why you failed. And maybe that's the seed of the equivalent benefit right there. You learning that you need to put forth 100% effort or it won't work. So you need to find the reasons why failure is a good thing for you, and you need to take that stranglehold you have around your neck, telling yourself that you've done something wrong and that you're not going to be able to succeed. You need to be able to rip those hands that are your own from around your throat. Give yourself a break and allow yourself to fail. Pat yourself on the back when you fail and say, you know what, you went out there and tried, and there's a lot of people out there who aren't trying anything. Give yourself credit where credit is due. It's absolutely okay to fail. If you're not failing, you literally are not trying. So all I'm asking you to do is, next time you have something not go in your favor, take a deep breath and allow yourself this mindset shift that says, somewhere within this mistake or somewhere within this adversity, I can find a positive and it's going to benefit me. Really give yourself the time to think about, what is that benefit? Where is it? Where can I find it? So I'm going to ask you guys to do two things for me before we go here. First thing, I want you to think about the most recent failure or the most recent thing that didn't go the way you had expected it to go, and I want you to put in the comments what the seed of the equivalent benefit is, or if you haven't had it, let's talk about it. Put it in the comments section. Let's open this up to myself and to everybody and see if we can find the seed of an equivalent benefit in whatever failure or whatever adversity that you're facing. The next thing I'm going to ask you to go out there and do for me is fail. I want you to go out there and come up with a failure for me, because you know what? That means you went out there and you tried something that was somewhat out of your comfort zone. You probably hadn't done it before, or you hadn't done it many times. I want you to go out on a limb, give yourself the permission to fail, and report back with some type of failure. But I want you to learn from that failure. I want you to grow from it. And then those experiences that you're going to gain out of doing that failure is going to come back to you many times over in the form of success, in the form of happiness, and the form of the self-confidence that knowing it's okay to fail, because nobody's perfect, including you, and you'll be able to move along and get something amazing done at some point. So thank you so much for your time. I genuinely appreciate you guys listening to this. I hope it's giving you a little something to think about, and I hope it makes your day-to-day life a little bit easier and gets you to that mindset you need to be to become the best version of yourself and the most motivated, the most powerful, and the most functioning you that you can possibly be.